We're live.
We're live.
All right, good evening and welcome, everybody. Today is Monday, yes, June 10th. And the City Council workshop. Around the table tonight, we have Councilor Fournier, Councilor Yakubaga, Councilor Trimble, Councilor Fish, Councilor Hawes, Councilor Schaefer, Councilor Dean, myself, Councilor Chuck Pelletier, and Councilor Leonard. We are joined by Finance Director David Little.
Thank you. Wanted to give you an update on where we stand with the budget. Since our last meeting, we looked at where we stand with current revenues. Also, my additional conversations with the bank on updating interest rates on our bank accounts. Based on those conversations, we were able to add some additional revenue to the budget, which lowered the mill rate by another 5 cents. And also lowered the impact to the average property tax bill from the $299 that we talked about last meeting to $288. So a little over a 7.5% increase. Feel pretty comfortable that that's probably where we're going to be, but again, we'll continue to look at stuff. But that's where we're at right now with the final budget. So the mill rate would drop about 60 cents, but it still would become an increase on the average property taxpayer bill. If there's any questions about that, if not, we'll go on to the downtown service provider.
Councilor Fournier.
Thank you for reaching out to the bank.
You're welcome.
Great, appreciate it.
So the next item is the third-party service provider, essentially Street Plus, which has been talked about numerous times. And the council seems to want to support that program, but obviously is concerned about the cost. We are also looking at whether or not it may qualify as part of the downtown TIF. We've heard back from the city's TIF attorney who contacted the Department of Community and Economic Development. And based on the information and the feedback that we have had, there is a high likelihood that it would qualify under a TIF program. So if this council is committed to supporting that program, we would need to find a way to fund it for this year, and then we would modify the TIF documents to try to add that in for funding in future years. With the also thought of, as the council has mentioned before, looking at modifying the downtown special assessment to try to have it be paid for through that as opposed to TIF funding or other funding. Also talk with the Downtown Business Partnership regarding the proposal, if adjustments could be made to the proposal, implementation time. It's anticipated that it would take approximately 60 days to get it up and running. So that puts it at a 10-month as opposed to a 12-month funding period, with some adjustments that could be made based upon the downtown officer and other staffing. The original proposal was like 426,000. The new proposal is 376,000. That's for a full 12 months. If we cut that down to approximately 10 months, we're looking at 310. The downtown partnership had already allocated and identified $80,000 from the special assessment district to go toward that. So that's looking at the city's funding of $230,000 versus the original amount that was in the proposed budget. So from looking at that, that would be, from our perspective, one-time funding. So we would want some council direction if you're looking at unassigned fund balance or ARPA money, if you want to continue and move forward with funding that for the upcoming fiscal year 25, with our, at least based on the information we received, that we should be able to fund that either through an increase. Probably next year would be an increase in the downtown assessment and some TIF district funds so that we're not getting the downtown assessment for the full increase of the cost all at once. Because as we reported before, it would have to go up about $1, which is a significant increase compared to any increases that they've had over the years. So we'd have to phase that in most likely over a couple of years using some TIF funding to mitigate the difference.
Discussion, Councilor Trimble.
How does that impact what we have for TIF funding or what's available for TIF money?
We would have to, I'm gonna. Oh,
All right.
that was not the direction I was expecting. I'm assuming the city manager is going to pull some information. But the downtown TIF brings in, if I recall, around a little over $4.2 million. That gets allocated out in various projects. So depending on how much we would need to shift to fund this program, certain downtown projects or other funding would have to.
So the
Because
whole
we're-
amount's been allocated already.
Right, we
No
allocate,
one allocated money there.
correct, we allocate the full amount each year as part of the budget, depending on which projects need to get done. Which debt service, because it is used to supplement the debt service for the cross center.
Right.
So we have standard expenses that come out of the downtown TIF every year, and then the rest are particular projects that need to get done, or updates or upgrades that we would like to do in the downtown. We would have to essentially, as with all projects, we'd have to sort of prioritize as to what could get done and what could be pushed to maybe the year after or the year after, depending on when the downtown assessment gets to the point where it could fund, if this program continues going forward past the initial 3 years, that it could be funded fully by the downtown assessment.
Well, I've been skeptical of the program since the beginning, as we've added things to the city, but at the same time, it seems like we're not making the progress we'd like to see in downtown. It's not where, I think that we've already seen a lot of progress since we've had the beat offs to downtown. There's already been a change in the atmosphere downtown, but I think this would enhance that. And I think we need to just do more downtown. And I would support that, some type of a glide path with TIF money and that. When I envisioned using the TIF money, I thought it would be an ongoing funding source and not like a one-time thing. So maybe we start high with it and bring it down, the TIF money down to maybe the 100,000 annual range, something like that, from my perspective. But I'm only one here, so I would support some type of a combination of TIF money and unassigned fund balance money, and so.
Council Bernier?
What's the timing on when we'll know if we can use the TIF?
Months? Not
We
sure the
would-
process.
So we would need to file an amendment. It would probably take us 30 days or so to get the amendment paperwork together with the attorney and then submit it to DECD. I would imagine they could turn that around in 60 or 90 days. So I think you're probably looking at 90 to 120 days total. Typically, when you see TIFs going in for review to Department of Economic and Community Development, it's right around that April 1st date. So that's the fact that we're looking to do an amendment sort of in their off-peak period. I think it would get through a little bit more quickly.
Right, I will clarify, it's not, I guess. Depending on council direction, the initial thought is that if you're going to fund the program this year, it would not be, no TIF money would be used this
Right.
year.
Okay, because you've already allocated.
Right, because we've already allocated out that,
Okay.
and that would modify stuff, so this would be,
Going
next
forward.
year's budget
Right.
would include a combination of TIF funding and the downtown assessment to fund this. So this year we'd be looking at ARPA money or unassigned fund balance.
Councilor Akbaka?
So how much was left in the unassigned fund balance? I forgot the number.
We transferred about 16. 7. I think about 16 million.
16 million.
Yeah.
Councilor Schaefer?
I've been skeptical about this from the start. I actually, in the last meeting, someone said, oh, somebody saw this in action in Sacramento, and I have a friend who lives in Midtown Sacramento, like not lives in the suburbs of Sacramento, but lives and deals with, the unhoused population in her neighborhood all the time. And so I said, hey, what do you know about this? And everything she said basically only confirmed my own skepticism. So I am still a no on this. I think that we need to at least we've had the BCOP for 2 weeks. And I think that we need to continue with, and we're working on getting our BCAT up and running. One of the things she said that there's still, you can look up Sacramento's unhoused problem. And she said, they are people who aggressively try to give you directions and harass the unhoused. And that is exactly what I don't want in downtown Bangor. So I that really and I kind of reached out and said, hey, we're talking with this group. Someone mentioned they're in Sacramento. What do you know about them? And she said, oh, that must be the people that aggressively try to give me directions and harass the unhoused. And I don't want that in Bangor. So I think that we need to let our own resources have some time to grow. We've already heard that just having a beat up for 4 days a week has improved things. And it's been 2 weeks. So I am still a no on this. I am one of 9. I'm not planning on running for reelection, so next year you guys can all come back and tell me I was wrong. That's fine. I won't be here, but I'm still a no.
Other discussion? Counselor Fish?
We've had a beat cop before and we still had issues. It's nice that we have one back downtown and it's needed and it has made a difference. But I don't think it's gonna make the difference that our downtown community has been begging for and has needed. And if we are fortunate enough to still have some ARPA money left and we have this group of downtown business people, some of them multi-generational people, some of them really struggling. And still, even with our beat cop, I'm still hearing stories, yes, less significant, but there's still a situation. And, you know, Bangor's not Sacramento. I think the Bangor people and the business owners and just our compassionate way we have with our unsheltered, and from what we've heard from the downtown people that have spoken with Street Plus, I don't think we would see that. And if that did start, I don't think we'd tolerate it. I think they've been coming here for 4 years asking for our help. They need something more. We have done some significant changes downtown and given them some more resources, but I think little by little, I just don't think we're giving them enough. We're still a little bit behind the ball, I think. So I'm for it.
Counselor Yacob?
In full support, my only concern is not like, I caution about maybe dedicating the ARPA funds towards like the entire amount. I'm not comfortable with that, so. But definitely I support this and give it a shot. I think it's worth it. It has been a few years now, and if we can, yes, absolutely, I'm in.
Counselor Leonard?
I'm also in favor of this proposal. I agree with Councilor Yakubaga. I don't think we should consider ARPA funds for this. There's a lot more projects we can use for that. This is a project that citizens have been asking for years now, and the call has been growing larger and larger and larger with each subsequent year. I reiterate, if they don't do the job that they do not say they're going to do, we can fire them. Again, this is also an organization that's meant to help out our other departments as well, such as relieving some police officers from constantly engaging with whether it be tourists trying to figure out where to get around in Bangor, or if it is officers engaging with those who are on the poverty spectrum. This gives a lot of officers the ability to respond to more extreme issues. So I think for what we invest in this, we get a lot more than what we're actually paying for initially. I think this is a no-brainer.
Counselor Dean?
I'm still in support of the Street Plus. I think we still need more help downtown, and I think we can tailor what we get out of them based on how we feel and our, you know, our future and what we see Bangor to be. I don't think we need to be clouded by another city's bad experience with them. And I feel that if we do have something going on that is not beneficial to Bangor, that because of our relationship with the Bangor partnership, we should be able to speak with them, figure out what's going on and make the changes. So I will be supporting it.
Counselor Fournier?
Between BCAT, the ranger, and the new officer on the beat downtown, what we've done last year as far as public works, helping out with some of the trash and the waterfront. I think I'm not in favor of doing this, and I'm certainly not in favor of if it's gonna affect the taxpayer of Bangor. I just can't get comfortable, with that. Thank you.
Counselor House?
If it had been a different year, it did not necessarily impact the individual taxpayers on the level that it is, maybe. But I think we're selling our programs and the things that we put in place short. It's not even had a chance to declare itself, whether it's a success or a failure. We're not dumping the downtown. We still have concerns about downtown. We hear the businesses and their complaints. But you also hear the citizens that came to and talked to us about their concerns of that's a lot of money when maybe we use volunteers, maybe we do more on other levels. So I can't say that I can support this, not the way it's written.
Counselor Trumbull?
Isn't the proposal you put forth to not impact your taxpayer outside of the downtown?
Yes, the support that would be put in for the city for this year would not impact the taxpayer being ARPA funds or fund balance. And the proposals going forward, or the thought going forward, would really just be the downtown assessment, not the regular tax base.
I think we already have many volunteers who help in the downtown area cleaning up we have the group downtown stream, Friends of
Folks,
Kenduskeag.
Friends of Little
Yeah.
Kenduskeag.
So they already do a lot of work, but it's still not enough. And we have those who beautification for the Bangor downtown area. They did a lot. It's all volunteers works. So I think that volunteers already contributed a lot to the work in the downtown area, and it's not enough.
So I think I've counted, Counselor Trumbull is in, I've counted 5 yes and 3 no.
Our math agrees.
Yeah.
Or-
And with mine.
Triple check.
So from my perspective, not that my vote matters at this point, but I think I see it a variety of different ways. I do think we need time for the programs that we have put in place to work and come to fruition. I also think that when we get down to where the proposal started and what they're asking for now for 1 year to say yes to something that the DBP has been asking for us for multiple years, with the understanding that it's not going to impact the tax rate for this year, and that it's going to be, we're going to find ways to sustain it for years 2 and 3 that won't impact the average homeowner. I think I'm willing to give it a try. I will be mostly concerned with implementation because I don't want people being harassed. I don't want it to negatively impact people's perception of downtown Bangor. I'll be very concerned. You know, my first concern when we first started hearing about this, or at least I did last year, was I don't want this program to become like a separate security force. We have a downtown beat cop. Our Bangor Police Department is the right force to address security and criminal complaint concerns. I don't want a third party going off and trying to be a security force. But where they can be ambassadors, help people find their way around, connect people to BCAT and some of the other resources like the Heart Center. I'm willing to give it a shot for a year.
Will we
Counselor
need to
Funk.
amend the order for their budget tonight?
No.
Okay.
What will be is based on this discussion is what we will do is we will amend the capital and new program budget that the council considers on the 24th to include $230,000 from, I was sensing from unassigned fund balances where people felt best. The DBP budget that you're approving tonight is their plan. But if they don't receive the money, they can't execute their plan.
Other discussion on this item? Okay.
So is there any other questions? Items from the council that you'd like to address regarding the budget? Are we comfortable as much as we can be with where we are? at the $18.55 and the $288 impact, as Debbie talked about. Any other reductions would be a change in service. If we're good with that, then the next steps would be tonight, at the council meeting is approving the city manager's original proposed budget from back in April.
First reading.
First reading.
Not
First reading,
approving.
sorry, not approving. First
Not
reading.
approving.
Thank you. So it's gonna look a lot higher than where we are today. But that is the process that we go through. The second reading, which will be on the 24th, will be the amended budget as we talked about tonight, barring any changes that may occur between then and there. And I'm holding the June 18th as a potential budget meeting if there's anything that the council would like to look at or express, or if something comes up over the next week that would be a substantial impact to where we stand tonight.
Councilor Fournier.
So last year, the state had this wonderful idea of giving some of the property taxes back to people who are over 65.
Yes.
How many of those were affected in Bangor?
I think there were a couple of thousand.
Yeah, it
I
was
think there were,
2,300, I
I was
think.
gonna say, it was just over 2,000,
Yeah.
I believe. Yeah,
So there's gonna be a
It's gonna be
significant
big.
impact.
correct.
Yes,
I
To
mean,
those that
talking
were over
260
65.
and then, or 300
Plus
Plus-
last year's,
plus last
they
year.
didn't have to pick up,
Right,
correct. Correct.
there's,
It's
just
gonna be
saying,
painful.
just wanna bring up the point.
Councilor Schaefer.
No, I didn't move my glasses.
Councilor Dean.
I was wondering, do we explain to the public that the first reading of the budget is just the initial budget and that it may be revised, or I'm just wondering how that comes across to the public when they hear the figures that haven't yet come down from the
Yes,
original?
so if you actually, on the summary, we do try to provide an explanation to the fact that this is just, this represents the city managers, it does not reflect the changes, all of those will be will be reflected at the next meeting. And I think at the last budget meeting, you had said, is there a way that we can share some of this information? So we're working on updating sort of a one page that we hope. It's difficult to explain.
It is.
It's difficult, but to try to give folks a good idea of what the impact is and what things look like and be realistic.
Mhm.
You know, I think the one thing that we've always tried to be is honest. You know, we could sit here and say, oh, tax rate dropped 60 cents, woo woo. Doesn't tell the whole story. And I think it's important that we're honest about it.
That was my question.
My question is the school number, does this reflect the changes that we made in funding some of the capital
Yes.
items?
yes.
Yes. Cause that number was. Higher than that.
Yeah, the initial school expense budget was 60,700,000. And now it's down 59.7. It was $940,000. That was the change.
So my only other question is, are there any other places where it might make sense? For us, things that are not recurring expenses and things that are not what we consider like cost of doing business, like new police cars and those sorts of things. There any other places that we have capital expenditures that might best be handled through fund balance or something that could bring this rate down any further that doesn't create a funding cliff or a hole for us later down the road?
Unfortunately, that's kind of what we look at when we determine what we will put in the base budget for capital items. Is we do put in the recurring annual needs. There are certain things that you just have to buy every year.
Yeah.
And that generally is what's included in there. That's not to say that there isn't sort of like the one-time thing, like the second year or the third year of the funding of the comprehensive plan implementation. But if not that, next year it's gonna be some other $50,000 one-time thing that you need. It doesn't make sense, you know, if there's an ability to fund the reserves, that is our first choice. But We have to buy trailers every year, we have to buy mowers every year, we have to buy police cars every year, we have to buy, computers every year, that was the one I was looking for. We make small contributions for like $100,000 or $200,000 to our paving, but we are currently bonding all of our paving every year. We've got to get to the point where we're actually funding more of our paving out of our regular budget. I do think there are some savings in the out years that are gonna provide you some additional breathing room. I also hope that with the revaluation, that we do equalize property taxes across the city. But I also recognize the concern and burden that it's gonna place on our residents, especially our older residents, especially our residents who are on fixed incomes. I share the concern that you've all shared. But if you want a robust park system, there's a cost. If you want a police department that responds and addresses the needs in the community, there's a cost. If you want fire and EMS services, there's a cost. So I think most of our costs go to our employees, and our employees are the key to us providing the services that our residents expect and frankly demand. It would be a hard shift.
Can you remind me, my last question, the capital expenditure that was about $2 million for the new building for the it's like
Training facility.
the training facility,
Yes,
that we funded elsewhere.
yes, we
Okay,
funded that in the
yes.
capital budget with a
Thank you.
bond. Yep.
Great.
And that's the one thing I think that we did try to be very mindful of with the support of the department heads, is ensuring that we have the equipment and the facilities that we need for our employees to do the work that our citizens value. It's great if you have people who can mow parks, but if you don't have the mowers to mow the parks, it really doesn't. I'll tell you this, so this was a story before me, where somebody, I think it was back in the late 80s, I think at some point, the street sweeper had broken.
Oh, when Ed started, he said that's what it was when he started. They towed it behind the other.
Right, they towed it behind a dump truck. So, I don't think that's kind of where we want to be. And if you've got plow trucks down and you've got plow drivers in, but if you can't put them in a truck because you don't have up-to-date equipment that's always breaking down, then again, we're failing in providing the services.
So the only new item would be Street Plus.
You've discussed everything else. That would be the last addition, and as I said, we'll add that to the capital and new programs. And based on the feedback, we'll propose to fund it with the unassigned fund balance.
Other questions or discussion? Okay, thank you very much. City manager updates.
Sure, I'm happy and sad. So I'm sad to say that we had some turnover in our outreach staff, but I'm happy to say that we already have the new person here and they're gonna start the end of this month. So we have a little bit of a gap going on. Our homeless response manager is starting later this month as well. But Jen and I continue to work with all of our community partners to address the needs in our community. So again, I was just gonna reiterate what we already have sort of done, is that tonight's agenda, there are 3 city resolves and 9 school resolves related to the budget. All of these are based on the initial city manager recommended. So virtually all, I think only 2 of the 3 city ones will have to be amended based on the changes you've done thus far, where the tax rate comes down, where we've increased some revenue projections. And then the capital one will be the change for the Street Plus. And I can't tell you exactly 2 of the schools. So 2 of the schools' 9s will also have to be amended by substitution, and that's to address the $940,000 with capital. Especially for Councilor Fish and Councilor Dean. state statute dictates for a school administrative unit, that you have to pass 9 separate articles to adopt a budget, which is why there are 9 resolves that you're gonna be reading. So as again, you're gonna read their first reading and referral. But they do represent the initial city recommended budget, and then you'll, at your next meeting, you'll amend 4 of them by substitution. But that will be all laid out. Some upcoming meetings, later this week, the Parks and Rec Director and I will be, meeting with the school committee in a workshop to discuss the Griffin Road property so that we can make sure that we wrap that up with, or at least get that specific ask. We've had a lot of conversations, but it's time to have the specific ask. We will also be having, I think last fall, when we talked about consolidating committee meetings, we said if we ever needed to add one, we would. We are gonna add a second GovOps meeting next week, specifically to discuss, the loitering, ordinance that went to committee last week. It'll have first reading tonight. It will be referred back. Because there may be some folks who are interested, we'll likely set it in a way that meeting starts at a particular time. So that people don't have to be here at 5:15 and waiting for their meeting. If we actually notice it with a particular time, hopefully that gives people a better sense of an opportunity to hear and be part of the discussion. Let's see, so on the 24th, pre-council, I know, we have 1 counselor who will be unable to attend that night, and I have 2 counselors who will only be here for the council meeting. So the pre-meeting will be relatively short. The Y has requested the opportunity to come in and speak to you and tell you where they are on their process and make their particular asks. So that will happen on the 24th, pre-council. I was also looking for a date, to hopefully, I was looking at the 24th to kind of give you an update on the ARPA. So for the first annual reporting period has passed, so I wanted to give you an update from all of the individuals. But with 3 counselors missing, I'm not willing to do that, so it'll probably look like it'll be sometime in July. But having said that, at Business and Economic Development Committee, you all looked at a rental registry pilot, which is actually on under new business tonight. And one piece of that was a quality housing provider program. And there was an ask for $250,000 of non-CDBG fund to help facilitate that. If it's acceptable to the council, I'd really like to have that come forward to finance next week. That would be in keeping, I believe, with the council's direction thus far, and that you would like to utilize your ARPA money to help for housing. So I think what I'd really like to do is have that go to finance next week with a request to ask for appropriating ARPA funds for the quality housing provider program.
Can we pause on that? Are there any objections to that? Or any discussion? Okay,
Okay. So public restrooms, I was told that DigSafe would wrap up last week towards the end, because we're placing a concrete base. So before you dig and place concrete, you have to do DigSafe to make sure there are no utilities or anything in the way. I went by one and I really didn't see the DigSafe marking, so I'm not sure that they have actually wrapped up last week, but that was their plan. Their plan was actually to pour the concrete slabs this week, so hopefully that remains on time, and then we'd be looking to place the first units next week, but we're at the mercy sometimes of others, so that's all I had for updates.
questions for the city manager?
On the ARPA situation, I can't think of his name, are we still working with our consultant?
Neil?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's still on board with
Yeah, he still gives me the tidbits. Now that we're into the good news or the bad news, if you will, is that now that we have a grant manager who is now signed up in the portal, who can start taking over all of that. The last follow-up I got from Neil was just to make sure that if we're looking at housing, that we've got the correct parameters. So he did some research for that. So we have pretty broad latitude as it relates to housing, which I thought was good.
I would move executive session, so our next step. Right,
Second.
one MRSA 40560, one MRSA 4560 fraternal order of police, commanding officers and patrol officers.
Second,
Second. Roll call vote, Counselor Leonard,
Yes.
Counselor Fournier.
Yep.
Counselor Yakobaga.
Yes.
Counselor Trumbull.
Yes.
Counselor Fish.
Yes.
Counselor Halls.
Yes.
Counselor Schaefer.
Yes.
Counselor D.
Yes.
I'm also a yes. We are in executive session.